even though you love it and you think it's a great product, it doesn't matter what you think. It matters how it sells and what the consumer thinks, if as long as we're executing it right.
Hi, I'm Russ, and this is the Memory Makers Podcast, the show that helps you create amazing customer experiences and make more memories. Today, we are doing the first in a special series highlighting the AAMA's FEC of the Year finalist locations that will be announced at the upcoming Amusement Expo. And we are so excited to be talking with Mr. Doug Mechling of Star Lanes Polaris in Columbus, Ohio. Doug, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm better than I deserve. As we were chatting before we started recording, this fun winter weather is making itself known, and we're just, the long johns are on and the warm socks are doubled up. So we're better than we deserve.
Now, people are being driven indoors for entertainment, right?
Yes, sir. That's right. It's it's always good to be able to take advantage of those less than ideal weather days for absolutely. To start us off with this, I'd love for you to give us a little bit of an overview on Star Lanes Polaris. How long have you guys been in business? What was the original, building and attraction mix like? And then where are you guys today from an attraction and staff size?
Yeah. So we're Star Lanes Polaris. We're located in Columbus, Ohio. We are a 35,000 square foot bowling anchored entertainment center. We have a full arcade, probably 65 pieces. We have an Omni arena, virtual reality arena. We have an XD theater. We have 3 bays of 501 darts, full bar and restaurant. We do cater to, the folks in our area that live in the northern suburbs of Columbus from a walk-in perspective. We attract quite a few folks from corporate events, large social events, birthday parties, things of that nature. We opened in 2013. This was kind of a journey for me building this facility. We started with a previous location a little further north of where we are right now. Worked on that from 2008 until about 2011, and that project fell through. And then in 2011, we kind of revamped and we targeted a different part of the city. Polaris, where we are on the northern end of Columbus, is it's in Delaware County, which is one of the largest, fastest growing counties. It has been for over 20 years in the Columbus market. Really nice market from a corporate and also from a family, from a household perspective. And so this was a former Circuit City building. We approached the landlord here in early 2011 and brought the concept to them and said, hey, this is something we're trying. It was at the time, unique to the Columbus market. There was a couple of Dave and Buster's in Columbus, some traditional bowling centers, but really nothing that was combining food, beverage, bowling anchored, arcade, events centric, like what we were putting together. And so we were able to work with the landlord and kind of walk them through that vision and why we felt it was the right fit for that. The Circuit City, those kind of older generation Circuit Cities were a little smaller in size, what they were doing toward the end of their reign. And so 35,000 square foot was a really right size for us. 20 lanes, again, just we worked with a lot of these folks, we worked with Dynamic Designs on the layout there. And
sure.
Howard and Doug, helped us out a lot there. Jerry and his team at AEM were alongside us from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of where we got to there's a long road, a lot of things in between there and how we actually got into the operation, but that's kind of the history there.
I love that. Well, and then even since opening, adding things like the 501 darts, which I absolutely love. I'm excited to hear kind of your thoughts on how that's impacted the guest experience, but especially when it sounds like, hey, we want to be able to target corporate and birthday parties. We want to be, both for the businesses and for the families. Were there, and adding things like Omni and then a dark ride, seems like with those complementary attractions and those mini attractions in there, you guys have that, have been very thoughtful of how do we have something for either of these groups to be able to bundle and package together. What did you have prior to some of those mini attractions in those spaces? Was it a larger arcade space, or did you have, I don't think you guys reduced number of bowling lanes to free up that space, if I'm correct.
No, it was mostly congregate space, dining space, lounge type space. And so, for instance, with the 501 darts, which we just installed in November of last year, we very intentionally removed probably a third of the dining room. And we're able to kind of tighten that up, and configure 3 bays of darts. And we built basically like L-shaped bars around each one of the bays so that we could really design it around groups. Again, trying to recreate the congregate space and give people a reason to linger alongside, and have a space they could put their food and drinks on. And
Love that.
We also kind of built into that like what would be 2 billiards tables. And so we have this kind of entertainment space that it's now revenue generating in the dining room, which was just kind of a wide open space. And so we'll have groups come in and just rent the bays of darts along with those billiards tables. And so it gives it's what everybody's kind of leaning into, more of the heavy social, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really on brand. The 501 product was really on brand with us. And as far as the game environments, the look, the feel, we were able to build it in really nicely into our space. But you're right. And very intentionally, the XD theater was up on what was previously our billiard suite, and we moved those billiards tables to another part of the venue, and we put the XD theater there. The Omni Arena kind of ate into our game room a little bit. We placed that in the game room, which you see from time to time with those placements. And so we didn't ever really take anything away necessarily. We've always added, but like you said, very intentionally throughout the years.
Yeah. Well, and I always say, time and square footage and budget are the hardest things to get more of when it comes to that. And so then when you are working within that former Circuit City and, just what is that space lending itself to? How do we maximize what and how people can do when they come here? And, it's to have
some evolves with consumer taste too. I mean, I think that you look and you see how people are reacting to how they utilize us, and where people might not have understood what, augmented reality darts was, 5 years ago, they do now. And so, I mean, we're looking at things now, we're always looking at what things we could make that would be complementary to our space. Like, looking at multi-sport simulators, they would be a great complement to what we already have in our venue. There's all these things that are out there that exist for us. I mean, there's a lot of things that would be complementary to our space.
And it's to your point, you have to really think, okay, which demographic is this going to serve? Like, if we're comfortable with the growth and trajectory of the corporate bookings, how do we also make sure that we're pouring love into what the birthday party bundles are, and what goes into that? But to your point as well, changing with the taste of the times. Hey, if it's been 3 years or 5 years since we've had anything significantly new from an attraction standpoint, have we gotten to a point with other elements in our FEC that makes sense to kind of cycle out and bring something new in? When you guys are bringing in new attractions like that, what is the ramp up from the marketing and engagement? Are you guys trying to really get the word out and build up that anticipation? Do you do a little mini grand opening of the new, attraction or feature that you guys are adding in? What goes into your guys' mindset with that?
Yeah, and again, that's kind of like, when we've opened in 2013 to where we are today in 2026, that world has changed immensely as well. So what we used to do, I mean, I can think of like some of the major things we've added on. We added hyper bowling. We're a Conquer Cubica AMF bowling controlled side. And so we added hyper bowling several years ago, and we tried to do some really good PR around that, get the word out, both in a digital ad as well as some PR, getting some media in to really highlight what we have, and bringing influencers in, as well as the XD ride, as well as the Omni Arena, and some of the partners they have better assets that exist than other partners and better ways to help us promote that as well. And so that's always a consideration as well when we enter into something else. 501's a good company that brings in a good amount of assets for us to be able to, really get out and show and engage with guests as far as what that content is going to look like inside the venue. So, Um, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of digital, but also community engagement on the PR side.
So when you are adding new elements into the attraction mix, obviously the staff has to get their teeth cut on what that is and make
Mhm.
sure that they're able to kind of Sherpa and caddy for the guests as they come in. Of there may be certain things of, hey, darts sort of under, I get what the gist of darts is, but are you allocating some extra time and attention from the staff in order to make sure, hey, how do we
Yeah,
get
or-
them some reps under their belts, and what does that look like for you
yeah.
guys on a
Yeah, it was
training
very
side?
important to us, specifically on the darts. We had, it wasn't our first time adding a major attraction. So we knew with this, we needed to be able to, um, uh, a good promo on the actual product itself was important to us. So we knew, whatever was running inside the venue, we needed to be able to show the energy and what it is. So when people were sitting there or walking, they're like, wow, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
We also had to have a way for the team to be able to, if somebody really didn't understand. I mean, it's darts, right? It's a real 501 product, is an actual dartboard that is you're magnetized, right? And so
Yeah.
giving the staff the time to be able to say, okay, we're going to do a 5-minute promo session with you, and this is what it is, and this is my favorite game. So we'll talk to the staff about, what is your favorite game to play on this, and give them time to play it themselves and develop that. I mean, just as you would a server to talk about what your favorite product is on the menu, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so some of it is just very, I mean, that's kind of common sense stuff to me. It's not rocket science, but yeah, it's just really kind of guiding them through what the process is, what the expectation is, how they use it, how they use us. That's what, for the whole venue, when somebody enters, we try to help people. People will still walk in that haven't been into our venue to this day, and they walk in, they kind of look around like, wow, where do we go? And so we're trying to have our staff always be trained to help guide them on their path through the venue. If they want to bowl, if they want to eat, if they want to play darts, whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah. It's so funny to me when I talk to different operators, and the, number one thing that often comes up is teaching our staff how to recognize when someone starts to look confused. And it's like, how do you recognize somebody based on body language and where and how they're looking of, hey, they're probably new here. Let's give them the yellow brick road, kind of quick walk through to help with
Yeah.
some of that. And obviously your team being such an important part of your culture and the guest experience, being open now for over 13 years, when you look back at early staff versus where your staff is now, what are some of the things that you think, hey, we as a management team are doing differently and that we really like right now to make sure that, one, we're bringing the right people on, but two, we're pouring into them and making sure that they have the tools and the mindset needed in order to really show up for the guests?
Mm. Yeah, I mean I think that that's maybe a tricky one because the labor market's a bit different now than it was 13 years ago, right? And so
Sure.
I think that there's still things though that exist throughout. It's just getting the right people hired and bought into what we sell, right? We're selling fun. If you have somebody who's in the mentality of, I'm going to come here and I'm going to have fun with this guest because in turn it's going to benefit me, that they're either going to come back or that I'm going to get a nice tip or whatever that is, right? And so I think there's really not a lot that's changed in terms of, we're our service model is full hospitality. We're
Mm-hmm.
full service in our restaurant and bar, and on the lanes. And so we really just try to keep that service element high. And so I guess
Mm-hmm.
it's maybe more continuity than necessarily things have changed a lot. I think that that's really what's brought repeat guests and kind of helped maybe increase our frequency of use. Is just, I feel like we're a consistent product. I
Mm-hmm.
think when they come to Star Lanes, they know what they're going to get, and it's a good product, a good value for what they are paying.
Yeah, do the little things well, and that ultimately will stack up those wins. I totally agree. When you guys are looking for hiring, do you guys do group interviews? What's that kind of initial vetting of candidates look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the level of
Mhm.
hiring. For salary, we have 14 maybe salaried managers on staff, and depending on the time of year, 50 to 75 part-time staff. And so, I think from an hourly perspective, typically we'll have whatever we kind of rotate our front of house managers throughout who's in charge of different sections at different times. So like if it's the front desk, we'll have a manager that's in charge of the front desk hiring for a period of time, and maybe they move to the bar. And so we kind of rotate those folks through to kind of keep eyes fresh, right? So typically there's a initial contact, and at that point, if there's a person who is that manager feels is good, they'll bring the general manager in and say, hey, I'd like to hire this person. Would you speak to them? That's kind of on the hourly level. From a salaried perspective, we're using online recruiting tools. I'm sure you've heard of all the names of the online recruiting tools that are out there. We're
Sure.
looking for people that have good experience for what those positions are. And then, in that case, usually the management team is going to bring that. I have two partners in this. It's my brother Jeff and my dad as well are my partners. And so typically once we have a salaried manager that we're going to hire, the team will say, hey, to Jeff and I, we'd like for you to interview them, and we'll have a conversation with that salaried manager before we give the green light to make an offer.
I like it. Well, and when you look at how do we consistently do the small things well, how are we hiring for that right aptitude and experience that we know, hey, this is what it means to kind of put ego aside and have that guest service mindset. When you are going through, hey, how do we keep our finger on the pulse of what the guest experience actually is? Are you guys what do you do beyond, hey, these are the 5-star reviews, these are the 4-star and below reviews that are coming in? What are different things that you as a high-level management team do to try to make sure, like inspecting what we expect for the guests and getting some more direct feedback from them?
Yeah. So we talk about this a lot. Communication and the way that people engage today is challenging in some ways. I think that, for us, we talk about what our service model is, and we have a 100% table touch policy. Does that actually happen? And table touch, by the way, what I mean is just speaking to a guest. It could be on the lanes, it could be on the dirt bay or wherever, just somebody that comes in that we're at some point checking in with them. And hopefully it's at the beginning, the middle, and end of their visit on how we've done. And if there's anything we can do for them while they're there and improve it. And on the way out, if there's something we've missed. And I don't know, there's something, people have a hard time sometimes really kind of telling you to your face what you haven't done right. And so then you get the reviews and you're looking at the reviews. But I think that we have a good pulse on it because we do want to engage with our both our walk-in clients as well as the event client. The event client's usually easier to kind of get information and feedback from because they've made a pre-purchased intentional purchase that we can reach back out and solicit feedback on how we've done. We also have a contact's name when they've come in to start the event, and the managers introducing themselves and introducing the staff that's going to be working their event. So I think that it's, for us, it's keeping a pulse is really kind of understanding what we're doing well, what we're not doing well. We also look at things like, what a product mix is for our, you look at actual sales. Sometimes the proof is in what you've actually sold, right? And so if we have a menu item and we know that sold, we sold 2 of those in 3 months and we've sold 150 of another, well, it probably means that the client isn't interested, the guest isn't interested in what we're selling that one. So let's look at something else to bring in and try that. So
sure,
there's a lot of different facets. Again, in a multifaceted business like this, so you're looking at entertainment attractions, you're looking at food and beverage, you're looking at, and then the overarching things of hospitality are service, cleanliness, the environment, things of that nature that aren't about the food or the attractions.
Sure. Well, and I think the other piece that I've found is, how do we also, beyond just being that on that short list of our core customers where, hey, we should go to Star Lanes and we should, that's always a good time, are there anything that you guys do from a community involvement, whether that's some philanthropic or charitable events that you guys do, as far as just being, out there beyond, hey, you guys can come here and have a great time? Are there any things that you guys do as a group that are kind of near and dear to your hearts?
Yeah, from a philanthropic perspective, we do a lot of little things. We don't have a necessarily a very, this is like the one single event that we align ourselves with every year. I think that like some things that really make me kind of feel like we are community involved. We have a couple of days a week. We have developmentally disabled folks that'll come in and bowl for a couple of hours in the morning, and that's something that we've consistently done. From a community perspective, if there's groups out there that want to have fundraisers for their elementary PTOs, and we try to align ourselves from a community perspective, based on the people that are kind of out there that are wanting to needing help with things, and we'll assess those as they come up and help where we can. And so we're always happy to listen and engage with those folks.
Yeah, I love the kind of the open door policy when it comes to those things, because there are so many good causes that are out there. And sometimes you just don't, like, to your point, hey, we didn't know that the elementary school PTO was, struggling in this area. And great, like, I have either team members whose kids go to that school or team members that went to that school. And so being able to receive those types of requests and find different ways, like, there are just so many cool things that we can do, whether it's for silent auctions and gift cards for the arcade, or it's, giving some of those special access hours during non-peak times. Like, it's so easy to be able to have that kind of open hand, open heart and make that impact.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll get people that'll reach to me, and my team will be like, well, we've already given out fundraiser things. Like, I don't care. Just give them something.
Yeah. Well, and there's everything from those school fundraisers. And sometimes, it's always a good thing when your employees are like, hey, we've done a number of these, because they're trying to be cognizant of, a budget or those kinds of things. And is it trackable? But as they learn too, and it gets something that where you're like, no, it makes sense, let's go ahead and do that, because there's not just one way that we can make something special or do an impact that way. Yeah. So, in looking forward, over the next, let's call it 5-ish years, obviously you've continued to add and change out what the mix is and tailor towards the guests. Are there anything, not necessarily from a product specific standpoint, but is there anything that you and the team are looking at, of, hey, these would be some cool ideas, we want to dive in a little bit further and see how those can make an impact on guest experience? Whether that's, hey, we got to sort out how we can start utilizing AI more, or are there software or other mechanisms that we need to be exploring that we think can move the needle as we start to do our due diligence on them?
Yeah, I think that there's, we always want to be continuing to be very aware of what the trends are from a technology standpoint. And so, yes, the answer is yes. I think that as we have new facilities that open up around us, obviously they're bringing in the latest technology. And so I'll give you some examples. I mean, we're talking about, doing some video masking walls that incorporates new scoring for our venue. That's just a different kind of more interactive experience on the bowling side of things. That's kind of fun and flashy. There's some things that aren't so fun and flashy. Like, we just introduced a new point of sale square into our venue. We were on a legacy Micros point of sale system, and so from a guest perspective, there's a lot of positives there, and kind of how that presents us to the guest versus having, it's a quick transaction, right? So we're making it more convenient for the guests right at the lanes with handhelds versus taking a card and going back and swiping it and bringing back a slip. And so that's not fun necessarily, but it's an upgrade in technology. We're remodeling our restrooms. It's there's things that are just like I think to keep us, we're getting Chuck from venues we're getting some new sofas for our VIP room right now, because we want to make sure we're keeping everything looking fresh. So there's that's I don't know. Maybe again, it's not like necessarily like one big thing, but it's just we're keeping an eye on all these things, and you can only do so many things in a year, 2 years, 5 years, but we've got a runway that we know we're going to continue to improve these in these areas.
Well, and that's I think the big ticket piece is, hey, once we open, we don't get to just coast on that, right? It's that continuous, never-ending improvement, and it's just looking for, to your point, hey, we can ease some friction on the guest experience by switching over to Square, and we can make that a little bit easier for taking in revenue as well as the staffing that it takes to make that happen. But again, like, it's so easy to get nose blind to certain things, whether it is, oh gosh, our hand dryers in the bathroom need a little, of a refresh or something along those lines. Is
Boring
there any
stuff?
But it may not have like the razzle dazzle, like shout it from the mountaintops piece, but it's those little things that can kind of subconsciously impact what the guest experience is without them realizing.
One of the best compliments we get is when people come in, they're like, how long have you guys been here? And we're 13 years old, but I'm telling you, if you walked into our place, Russ, and this isn't me tooting my own horn, you would not think that our venue was 13 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Any experiments or lessons that didn't necessarily end in what you would call a success, but were really impactful for you guys from a learning perspective? Maybe even just how you vet making future decisions, or hey, this just isn't for Columbus.
Yeah, I think that I just had this conversation. I did an interview with somebody for our sales team earlier today, and we were talking about kind of this subject. And early on, we had this concept that we could, your client changes through day parts. We understand that, like that kind of like permeates no matter what market you're in. But we're kind of on the ring road of a suburban mall, and we decided we were going to try this promotion, this campaign to get the kind of younger crowd in, the more energetic crowd, late night crowd, right? We put all this promotion, time, effort, energy into it. We called it "Let the Big Kids Play." Had a really good. It just flopped, and so I think the lesson there for us was to, like pay more attention maybe to giving a better product for the base that's coming in, that's supporting us, and know, who the segment of our demographic is that's using us the most. And so that's one thing. I mean, we've made some mistakes on, I think that maybe one of our attractions maybe was a mistake, and we've obviously made some mistakes in the game room. Those are kind of easier to interchange.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, there's things like that along the way, and you just have to adjust to it. Menu items are a good example. Something doesn't work, even though you love it and you think it's a great product. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters how it sells and what the consumer thinks, as long as we're executing it right.
Sure.
So always staying on top of what those items are.
Well, I take that as I'm planning to see you do more TikTok dances around loaded tater tot nachos. Is that?
Yeah, my son helps with the TikTok stuff. So
there you go.
I'll have him do the dance around it.
I love it. I love it. Before I let you go, is there either a favorite quote, a favorite book, or an audio book, or a podcast that you've been listening to lately that you've enjoyed quite a bit? I know this is typically the hardest question that I ask folks.
Yeah, I'm pretty boring. I don't know. I'm kind of. I read a lot of reports for the business. I think that just maybe the sentiment here of kind of what you're asking is, that's maybe for me, it's the golden rule. It's not really a quote necessarily, but it's treat others as you'd want to be treated. I think that I try to live my life that way for the most part. And then I also, from a business perspective, we try to, I always try to put I have a family, 3 kids. And so when we go out somewhere, I know how I want my family to be treated, and in Star Lanes, it's the same way. I want to treat people the right way, right? And so that's probably, I guess, my thing, I would say.
I love it, man. It's simple is it's not easy, but it can be simple, and that way we can keep that as a North Star that continues to make what our industry is so special, right? Is being that force for good and being that place where folks can come to celebrate and escape no matter what they're there for. So
yeah, I love this industry. I think that it's a close knit industry of people. The Creative Works folks, I remember from way back in the day when we were first starting this, they created a indoor putt place in Marion, Ohio. It was like a fire and ice theme, and I still remember that from that was like 2008 or something like that.
Yeah.
So you guys
Yeah,
have
yeah.
been around the block. You guys have done it.
As I always tell folks, and whether it's the operators or us on the vendor side, we are ridiculously lucky to get to do what we do, more so than anything, just because you can see a direct, tangible result of the work that you're doing, seeing that translate into the guests as they come through, and the revenue that helps drive, and all of that. So, man, keep doing what you're doing. So thrilled for you and the team being a finalist for the FEC of the year for AAMA. And
Very proud of that, yeah.
Man, yeah. So make sure to give a big shout out to the rest of the team, and we'll see you at Amusement Expo here. Before we know it, it's going to be around the corner.
Yeah, we'll see that. But yeah, it definitely is a team thing. You're right. Just all those people I mentioned in the beginning that helped us get started, through all of our management team and the staff, that they're the ones that make it happen. And so you're absolutely right on that.
I love that. Well, with that, that's a wonderful place for us to wrap up. If you that are watching have any future ideas for episodes or podcasts that you'd like us to dive into, we are all ears. If you liked what you heard today, don't hesitate to give us that 5-star review, please and thank you. And big shout out to Mikey Mike on the ones and twos, making the Ultranet work. Thank you to Doug and his team, and congratulations. And thank you all for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one, Troublemakers.